This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Are the Browns building a new stadium? It's a question on the minds of everybody after a couple of things went down this morning. Now, this is all developing fast and quickly. I'm trying to get all this information to you as quickly and as accurately as possible. But basically, the first bit of news that broke was that the Browns bought a huge plot of land in Brook Park, across from the airport, Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. Now, that's always going to raise eyebrows when an NFL team buys a NFL stadium size plot of land, especially when their lease for their training facilities in Berea is set to be in the city of Berea, not Brook Park, the city of Berea, until 2039. So this plot of land can't be for a new training facility anytime soon, but the Browns' lease for their stadium ends in 2028. Now, last we heard about the stadium plans for the Cleveland Browns, we've heard mixed reports. We've heard that the Browns want to do a $1 billion renovation with a land bridge and to revitalize the lakefront. And then we've also heard that the Browns were looking at different plots of land to have different options available to them. And then this press release got put out, and I think this is very interesting. In this press release, the Cleveland Browns said, "We've been clear on how complex the future stadium planning can be. One certainty is our commitment to greatly improving our fan experience while also creating a transformative and lasting impact to benefit all of Northeast Ohio. We understand the magnitude of opportunity with the stadium project, intent on driving more large-scale events to our region." That's an important sentence. "And are methodically looking at every possibility. We appreciate the collaborative process with the city of Cleveland and the leadership of Mayor Bibb in analyzing the land bridge and our renovation of the current stadium. At the same time, as a part of our comprehensive planning efforts, we are also studying other potential stadium options in Northeast Ohio at various additional sites. There is still plenty of work to do and due diligence to process before a long-term solution is determined, and we'll further share updates at an appropriate time." So that sounds very clear to me that while they may not intend right now 100% to build a stadium in that plot of land, they did buy that plot of land in case they do want to build a new stadium in the city of Cleveland. Now, there were also some accompanying reports that went along with this. This is the plot of land. You can see it here that they bought. It's a pretty sizable chunk of land. It used to be, I think, some Ford plants or whatever it is. That's where the plot of land is that the city bought. The Browns bought, my bad, not the city, the Browns. Tom Withers says the Browns want a dome. Obviously, the city doesn't want to pay for it. Obviously, the team is using some leverage with the land purchase, hoping to increase public pressure on the city as lease expiration nears. Now, the whole leverage play thing, it seems like that's the first reaction a lot of people have when people called the city to get a comment on it and use their sources with the city. It doesn't seem like the city feels like this is a leverage play because it's something that they didn't even know about. And for it to be a leverage play, they would have had to know about it. But right now, we've talked about the $1 billion plan to renovate the stadium, do the land bridge, everything else like that. But I also think while that is an option that the Browns are considering, just renovating the new stadium, I do think a new stadium is also something that the Browns are considering, right? I think they're both options on the table. And here's the awkward reality. about building a new stadium in 2028. The awkward reality is that the Browns stadium has been in that same plot since like the 1930s, since the original municipal stadium. And the reason it's been allowed to stay on that plot is because the Browns went away for 4 years, from 95 to 99, as part of deactivation and reactivation to build that new stadium. If the Browns want to build a stadium on that current plot of land that they have the current stadium on, they want to build a new stadium, they have very limited options on where to play. And hell, even if they don't want to build a completely new stadium on that same plot of land, but they want to do very significant renovations, which $1 billion in renovations would be almost the cost of a new stadium. New stadiums cost about $1.5 to $2 billion nowadays. The Browns stadium, if you adjust for inflation, when it was built in 99, was like $239 million. But if you adjust for inflation, it was about $450 million. So you're talking about a renovation that's two times the price of what it costs to just build that stadium there. And even if you want to do a big renovation there, that might mean that you can't get that done in the few months that you have in between seasons. So it could be something awkward where you're doing a giant renovation and your capacity is cut significantly for a couple of seasons while you continue on with that renovation, which is not ideal. Also, if you wanted to build a new stadium on that plot of land, that means that the Browns would have to go somewhere else for a couple of years while they built that stadium. And there's just no good option for the Cleveland Browns to go to if they have to build a new stadium on that plot of land. Playing in Columbus, I know a lot of people think that this is a good idea. It's a terrible idea. The league doesn't want to do it. The Browns don't want to do it. The reason the league does not want to do it is they don't want to play in a soccer stadium, right? And that's probably the main option that they would have, is playing in that soccer stadium in Columbus. They don't want to play in the soccer stadium. They don't like the optics after they had the Chargers played in there. They're not going to go for that. The other option is playing in Ohio Stadium. The league's not going to really go for that either. The reason the league's not going to go for that is you're going to have a team that's technically playing out of market in a 100,000 seat stadium. That's not going to be something that the league wants. The league does not want that. So, and I don't think the Browns want that either. And I'm not even sure if Ohio State can accommodate that, because they have turf fields, and also you have to paint over and kind of do the whole crew there. It wouldn't be a good option, right? You're also moving the team 2.5 hours down the road. This is not the same thing as when Minnesota, the Vikings, moved out the Metrodome and they just moved down the road to where the University of Minnesota was playing. There is no University of Cleveland football. So you would have to go 2.5 hours out the way and take the team 2.5 hours out of market into the middle of Ohio and play in a 100,000 seat stadium that you can't even guarantee that you're going to fill, because it's just tough. It's a bad look. I don't think the league wants it. I don't think Jimmy Haslam wants to do it. The other option is playing in Canton. Not a great option either, because that stadium holds, I think, less than the soccer stadium in Columbus does. And it's not really built for that. But if you had to go with one option, I think that would probably be the best one. And that kind of shows you the length of the issues that they have here. And also another awkward reality we need to face about this stadium is that it's old and it's not historic. This is not a very historic stadium. The stadiums that you see that get renovated year after year, and are allowed to exist, right? If we go from the oldest stadiums in the NFL, it's like Soldier Field, and that's about to be gone. They're moving to the suburbs, so they've even given up on Soldier Field. Lambeau Field, very historic. I mean, like, you can't really, it doesn't feel like the NFL if you don't have Lambeau Field in there. So that makes sense that it's been allowed to stay around for that long. Arrowhead Stadium, very iconic, historic stadium. A lot of great things happen there. You've had a lot of historic old ass Super Bowls in there. They have a lot of history that happened there. Buffalo is another old stadium, but that's about to go away. They're building a new stadium in Orchard Park. And you have the Superdome, which is literally a landmark in the city of New Orleans. So that's a historic stadium. You have Hard Rock Stadium, the old Orange Bowl. I mean, it's a very historic stadium for more than just the NFL. And then you have stadiums that aren't that historic, right? And the Cleveland Browns fall into stadiums that are old but not historic, like Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville, like Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina for the Carolina Panthers, FedEx Field. I guess it's iconic for its terribleness, but it's not anything. M&T Bank Stadium, Raymond James, Cleveland Browns Stadium, Nissan Stadium. All of these stadiums are not classics, but they are old. So they're going to get replaced soon, right? They were built in the 90s. They're about to get replaced soon. They're at the edge of their lifespan and they don't have any historic claim to continue that. And with the Brown Stadium, it's kind of historic because it's been on that same plot of ground since the 1930s. But they built a new stadium over it and it doesn't look historic anymore. And that does matter. It kind of just looks like an old stadium. And I don't think the league's going to want that there. I don't think the Hasms are going to want that there long term. So that's one reason. Look, if you eventually you're just going to have to build a new stadium because the stadium's old and it's not super historic. So it's not worth dealing with the kinks of having a super old stadium. You might just have to move on from Cleveland Browns Stadium. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have to build it elsewhere. Another reason why, even though they have the option of the $1 billion renovation, that they might want to go elsewhere. Because like the whole leverage thing that Tom Withers throws out there, it doesn't really make that much sense to me because I don't think the city of Brook Park has enough money to offer more than $1 billion in aid in building a new stadium, right? Like the city of Brook Park don't got it like that. I don't think they got it like that. Now, you would need the city of Cleveland's help. So if you're trying to be hostile to the city, it doesn't make sense because in order to build a new stadium, let's be real here, it's Northeast Ohio. We ain't got $1 billion in suburbs money. Like that's just not how that shit goes. So I don't think that really makes a ton of sense there. I think that they're deciding whether they want to renovate or whether they want to build a new stadium. If they want to build a new stadium, they're going to build it there. And the reason they might want to build a new stadium is while having that stadium on the lakefront has its own advantages. You get to play outdoors. You get to have a little bit of a home field advantage, the elements, all of that. We hear people argue for it all the time. There are some disadvantages, not just on the field, but also off the field that the Cleveland Browns have because they don't have a domed stadium. Now, what are those disadvantages? One, and the main one, is look at the opportunities that stadium has missed out on in just the last couple of years. If we want to just keep it a buck, look at the major economic opportunities that this stadium was not considered for simply because it's inconveniently placed and it's outdoors, it's on a lake that makes things very inconvenient. Just think about it. In the last couple of years alone, Taylor Swift and Beyonce, the two biggest stadium touring acts in all of music, they had massive stadium tours. They played at a lot of different stadiums. Both of them did not play in Cleveland Browns Stadium or even played in Cleveland, right? If you were in Cleveland, you want to see Beyonce or Taylor Swift, you had to go to Detroit or you had to go to Pittsburgh. But you did not have to have that in Cleveland. Part of the reason that is because you have a stadium on a lake that's prone to having bad weather all the time. And it's just not somewhere that people want to put giant events. Also, the stadium's older. It's not a super multi-purpose stadium. Even though they can have concerts there, it's very select on when you can have it. The weather is a huge factor and a huge deterrent for a lot of travel companies, and they just don't choose it. So two of the biggest stadium touring acts in the last 5 years, Beyonce and Taylor Swift, they didn't play in Cleveland. That matters. Another thing, city of Philadelphia's getting a WrestleMania. You ain't getting a WrestleMania as long as that stadium is there because they want to play in a stadium right? And they want WrestleMania in a stadium for weather reasons. If it's going to be in Cleveland, because Cleveland's not as big as a city as Philadelphia, so we don't get that benefit of the doubt of maybe brading through some bad weather. But city of Cleveland, they need a dome in order to get a WrestleMania. They're not going to get a WrestleMania otherwise. They're seeing other cities up north get WrestleManias. They're not getting WrestleManias. SummerSlam, which is reportedly coming to Cleveland, right? WWE SummerSlam, their second biggest event of the year, which is coming to Cleveland, but not Cleveland Browns Stadium, from what I'm hearing. I think it's coming to Progressive Field, which that stinks for the Browns, right? Like, you should have that event in that stadium, but you can't have it because you don't have a dome. And the Super Bowl, obviously, you've seen Minnesota get a Super Bowl, New York get a Super Bowl. You want to get a Super Bowl in the city of Cleveland if you're the Cleveland Browns, just for the revenue alone. And as long as your stadium is open air, it's not going to get a Super Bowl as long as it's in the city of Cleveland. All of these things factor into why they would want a dome, on top of the other factors, right? The league's changing. Teams are passing more. The elements seem to be something that disrupts a lot of teams. Think about Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers. Pass first offenses his whole career in Green Bay. But every year he gets horrible weather in the conference championship game, in the second round, and he doesn't make it back to a Super Bowl. He's been to one Super Bowl. Right. And part of that is the weather he has to fight through. And maybe if you're going to build a pass first team going forward for a pass first league, it shouldn't be outdoors that the stadium you built. You should build a dome. Now, there's a whole bunch of opinions on the domes. Look, if you want to retain natural grass, there are going to be some compromises, right? You're not going to have as big as a dog pound section. The dog pounds is not going to be as loud because in order to roll in and out the grass, you have to lower the capacity on the end zone. So you're going to have to take a sacrifice there. If you want a retractable dome, and I think retractable domes are honestly bad ideas just because teams are moving away from them, one, and two, I don't understand the point of a retractable dome when you can build like translucent roofs like they have in Minnesota. Because the only reason you would want to build a retractable dome for is so you can let the sunlight in. I know people have this dream of like building a retractable dome so you can let snow and rain in, but like defeats the whole purpose of a dome. To let snow and rain in. And honestly, it's still an indoor facility, so you don't want to let all that moisture in. Either way, they're never going to open the dome to let elements in. They're only going to open the dome to let sunlight in. And if that's the only reason we open in the dome for a dog, we might as well just get that translucent roof that SoFi and Allegiant Stadium and the Vikings have in Minnesota, because I think it's a better look. It looks better. It's easier to maintain and it's cheaper. So it makes sense to do it. The retractable dome idea always kind of like feels like it's something that we want because like we want to have it, but it's like a sunroof. Like, how often do you really use your sunroof? Like, I don't ever use, like, it's cool to be like, hey, look, there's a sunroof, but you don't ever really use the sunroof. Like, it's kind of inconvenient. It messes up your hair. Like, you just rather would roll down the window. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of retractable domes. I think if they do build a dome, it should be fixed roof. It should be translucent so you can let some sun in. And then, maybe you can roll in and out some grass options so you can maintain natural grass fields. It's going to be a change for a lot of people. The Browns playing indoors, going to be a change if it happens. But I think they're seriously considering it. And the reason they're seriously considering it is, one, they feel like it would be a better fan experience. Two, and I think that's right, I think domes are in general, like when we're talking about fan experience from like a how you feel in the stadium type, for most people, it's a better experience. I understand there are the diehards in there that like getting cold, that like freezing to death, and they think it's a badge of honor. And I'm not here to call you an idiot or anything for thinking that. Like, I understand the pride that you feel about braiding through the elements, but not everybody's like that. And honestly, most people aren't like that. So if we're talking about what's the best for most fans, it's probably a dome. If we're talking about what's going to get more opportunities to the city of Cleveland, it's probably a dome. If we're going to talk about what's going to bring bigger events like Taylor Swift or Beyonce to the city of Cleveland, it's probably a dome. We want to talk about what's going to bring a WrestleMania, a Super Bowl, more SummerSlams, Money in the Bank, any kind of big event that people are going to do, it's going to be a dome. Another thing, right? The FIFA is doing the World Cup in the United States in about 5-6 years, whenever they're running out the new FIFA World Cup. I'm not a big international football fan, so I don't know these dates, but I know that FIFA is coming, the World Cup is coming to the United States. And I know Atlanta is getting the game. I know New York is getting a game. But maybe Cleveland felt like I think even Kansas City is getting the game. Maybe Cleveland felt like they should be able to be in the running at least to get a game, but they didn't want them for whatever reason, right? Whether it be the facilities are old or maybe the city and the weather combination isn't great. All of those things, I feel like they would have a better chance of getting those opportunities if they had a dome stadium. And I don't think that they're wrong for thinking that. Look, when it comes to trying to get outside events here, I know we all love the city of Cleveland, but the perception is not the same outside of the city. And if you want to get these events here, you got to sweeten the pot and make it as easy as possible. And this is how you do it, is by building a really nice state-of-the-art dome stadium. Now, is it a waste of taxpayer money? Almost absolutely. But this is just, I'm trying to walk you through what the Browns are going through in deciding this. I honestly wouldn't care if they just renovated the stadium that they have already and played there forever. I don't really care where the Browns play. I'm not really like, man, we need to spend $2 billion on a new stadium. For me, I'm fine with Cleveland Browns Stadium. It's a fine place to play football games, but that's not the only thing that the Browns are considering right now. And that's my thoughts on this. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you want a new stadium? Do you not want a new stadium? Do you want a new stadium with some context or not? Or do you want a dome? Like, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.